Hello students, welcome back to my channel Enhance Your Skills. My today's topic is from the book Snapshots for class 11th. The name of the topic is a poem, The Tale of a Melon City. In this video, I shall give you the full explanation of the poem, The Tale of a Melon City. So let me begin. This poem has been written by Vikram Seth. The Tale of Melon City, it tells the story of Melon City's generous but foolish king who once ordered the public to build an arch in the city. The king's crown fell while passing through that arch, and he decided to hang the person responsible for the incorrect arch's design. In this poem, the poet has mocked the notion that it makes no difference to people who their ruler or king or head of state is, as long as he allows them to live in peace, freedom, and most importantly, in their minds. Now come to the explanation of the poem. In the city of which I sing, there was a just and placid king. The king proclaimed an arch should be constructed that triumphantly would span the major thoroughfare to edify spectators there. In these lines, just means one who does and likes justice, placid means calm, and proclaimed means ordered. Triumphantly means a sign of victory or majestically, you may say, and major thoroughfare means main road. Edify means improve or make pleasant, and spectators means onlookers or visitors. In these lines, the poet says that he is narrating this poem about a city whose king favored justice. He remained calm. The king ordered that a big gate or an arch be constructed in the city. This will be symbol of his victory. This arch was to be constructed on the main road of the city. The king thought that it will improve beauty of the city for all spectators or for all residents or visitors. Next lines. The workmen went and built the thing. They did so since he was the king. The king rode down the thoroughfare to edify spectators there. In these lines, workmen means workers or laborers. Rode down means walked through. In these lines, the poet is saying that the workers obeyed orders of the king. They went to the site and constructed the arch. After it was completed, the king went there to inaugurate it. The king walked on the main road and through the arch. Next, under the arch, he lost his crown. The arch was built too low. A frown appeared upon his placid face. The king said, "This is a disgrace." Built too low means its height was very less. Frown means expression of anger, and disgrace means insult. In these lines, the poet is saying that when the king walked on the main road and through the arch, many other residents of the city had gathered there to see their king. They were happy to see their king. The crown of the king touched bottom of the arch because its height was too low. The crown fell down from the head of the king. As the crown fell down, an expression of anger appeared on the face of the king. The king said that it is an insult to him that his crown had fallen down. Next lines. The chief of builders will be hanged. The rope and gallows were arranged. Gallows means a structure for hanging a person. When the king's crown fell down, he ordered that the chief builders should be hanged. Structure for hanging was made and a rope was tied to it. Next lines. The chief of builders was led out. He passed the king. He gave a shout. O king, it was the workmen's fault. Oh, said the king, and called a halt. In these lines, led out means brought, past the king means came before the king. Halt means to stop. In these lines, the poet is saying that the chief of builders was brought before the king. The chief builder said that it was not his fault. The workmen had not constructed it properly. After listening the chief of builders, the king ordered to stop hanging the chief of builders. He believed in justice. Next lines. To the proceedings, being just and placider now, he said, I must have all the workmen hanged instead. Here proceedings means activities. As the king believed in justice, his face had become more calm now. He ordered that instead of the chief builder, all the workmen should be hanged. Next lines. The workmen looked surprised and said, O king, you do not realize the bricks were made of the wrong size. Here the poet is saying that the workmen were surprised at this new order. They requested the king to listen to their plea. They said the mason had made bricks of a wrong size. Next lines. Summon the mason, said the king. The masons stood there quivering. It was the architect, they said. The architect was summoned. Summon means to call or to order to be present. Quivering means shivering or trembling. The king orders to call the masons. The masons came and stood in front of the king. They were trembling because of fear. They said that they did not make any mistake. It is the fault of architect. Then architect was called. The king ordered that the architect should be hanged. Next lines. Well, architect, said his majesty, I do ordain that you shall be hanged, said the architect. O king, you have forgotten one small thing. You made certain amendments to the plans when I showed them to you. In these lines, his majesty means words. These are the words used for the king or someone of high authority. Ordain means to order. Amendments means changes, and plans means designs. When the king ordered that the architect should be hanged, the architect reminded one small thing to the king, that the king had made some changes in the design made by him. The architect indirectly saying that he's saying that the king is at fault, not the architect. Next lines. The king heard this. The king saw red. In fact, he nearly lost his head. But being a just and placid king, he said, This is a tricky thing. I need some counsel. Bring to me the wisest man in this country. The meanings of some words from these lines. Saw red means became very angry suddenly. Lost his head means become upset or lose one's calmness. Tricky means complicated or not easy to decide. Counsel means advisor. These lines mean that after listening to the architect, the king suddenly became very angry. Actually, he became so upset that he almost lost his calmness. but he was a justice loving and calm king, so he quickly controlled himself. He said that this situation was very complicated. I need to consult a wise person. He asked to call the wisest person of his country. Next lines: the wisest man was found and brought, nay, carried to the royal court. He could not walk and could not see, so old and therefore wise was he. But in a quivering voice he said, the culprit must be punished. Here, nay means a rather, quivering means a shaking or trembling, a culprit means a defaulter or a wrong person, uh, and these lines means here the poet is saying that the wisest man of the country was found and brought before the king in his royal court. Actually, he was very weak person that was brought. He could neither walk or nor he could see. So he had to be carried to the royal court. He was considered wisest person because he was the oldest person. That old person said in a trembling voice that the culprit must be hanged. Next lines: truly the arch it was that banged, hit the crown off, it must be hanged. Banged means a hit or collided. The wisest man said that actually the arch had struck against the head of the king, so the arch should be hanged. Next lines: to the scaffold the arch was led, when suddenly a counsellor said, how can we hang so shamefully? What touched your head, your majesty? True, mused the king. By now the crowned restless was muttering aloud. Here, scaffold means platform for hanging someone. Counselor means minister. Mused means thought carefully. Restless means impatient. And mutter means to speak in a low voice. In these lines, the poet is saying that a platform for hanging of the arch was made and the arch was brought up to that platform. Suddenly, one of the ministers said that we should not hang the arch. It has touched the head of the king, thus, it has blessed the king. The king carefully thought about it. In the meantime, the crown had become impatient. Next lines: to the scaffold the arch was led, when suddenly a counsellor said, how can we hang so shamefully? What touched your head, your majesty? True, mused the king. By now the crowd restless was muttering aloud. In these lines, scaffold means platform for hanging someone, counselor mean minister, mused mean thought carefully, restless means impatient, and mutter means to speak in a low voice. Here the poet is saying that a platform for hanging of the arch was made and the arch was brought up to that platform. Suddenly one of the ministers said that we should not hang the arch. It has touched the head of the king. Thus it has blessed the king. The king carefully thought about it. In the meantime, the crowd had become impatient. Everyone was talking slowly, but collectively their voice had become loud. Next lines: the king perceived their mood and trembled and said to all who were assembled, let us postpone consideration of finer points like guilt. The nation wants a hanging. Hanged must be someone, and that immediately. The noose was set up somewhat high. Each man was measured by and by. Here perceived means understood. Assembled means gathered, the people who were gathered there. Consideration means thought or aspect. Finer points means minor aspects. Noose means the rope for hanging someone. By means within short period of time. The king understood the mood of the crowd, that it wanted the culprit to be hanged. The king became excited and equally eager. To all the people who had gathered there, he said that we should postpone the minor aspect of finding out the guilty. The country wants that somebody should be hanged, so we must immediately hang someone. After that, a rope was put up on the platform. It was set up a bit high. Each person present there came to the noose to measure one's height. Next lines. But only one man was so tall, he fitted one man, that was all. He was the king, his majesty was therefore hanged by a royal decree. A royal decree means order of the king. In these lines, the poet is saying that when each person present there came to the noose to measure their heights, but the height of only one person was found to be equal to that of the noose, and that person was the king himself. Therefore, as per the order of the king of the country, he was hanged. Next lines. Thank goodness we found someone, said the ministers, for it instead we had not, the unruly town might well have turned against the crown. Long live the king, the ministers said. Long live the king is dead. In these lines, unruly means agitated or angry. Against the crown means against the king. In the given lines, the ministers thanked themselves that they could find a person to hang. Otherwise, the agitated people of the town would have revolted against the king. They said that, may the king live for a long time. They again said that, may the king live for a long time, and the king is dead. Next lines. They pondered the dilemma, then, being practical minded men, sent out the heralds to proclaim, the next to pass the city gate will choose the ruler of our state, as is our custom. This will be enforced with due ceremony. In these lines, dilemma means difficult situation or problem. Pondered means thought carefully. Sent out means moved. Heralds means announcers or messengers. Proclaim means announce or declare. In these lines, the poet is saying that ministers thought about the difficult situation because of the death of the king. They were very practical persons. They quickly thought of a solution. They asked messengers to move around the country. By the order of the former king, they were ordered to make an announcement in the public. The order was that the first person to enter the city will select the king of the city. This was the custom of their country. The order further declared that a new person will be made king in a big ceremony. Next lines. A man passed by the city gate, an idiot. The gods cried, wait, who is to be the king? Decide. A melon, the idiot replied. This was his standard answer to all questions. He liked melons. In these lines, the poet is saying that a man crossed the gate of the city to enter into the city. He was a fool. The gods stopped him. They asked him who should become the king of the city. The man replied, "A melon." He liked melons very much. So, to every question, this was his answer. Next lines. "You are now our king," the minister said, crowding a melon. Then they led, carried the melon to the throne and reverently set it down. Here, reverently means with a lot of respect. In these lines, the poet is saying that the minister told the melon that it was their new king. They put the crown on it. The ministers, with lot of respect, carried the melon to the throne. They put it on the throne. That means the ministers crowned a melon, believing that it is now going to rule over their city. They set the melon on the throne and declared him as their king. Next lines. Next lines. This happened years and years ago. When now you ask the people, so your king appears to be a melon. How did this happen? They say, well, on account of customary choice, if His Majesty rejoice in being a melon, that's okay with us. For who are we to say what he should be as long as he leaves us in peace and liberty? The principles of laissez-faire seem to be well established there. In these lines, customary means according to the customs or usual practices associated with a particular society, place, or set of circumstances. Rejoice means feel or show great joy or delight. Laissez-faire means the policy of living things to take their own course. That means without interfering. Here the poet is saying that now the melon was declared the king many years ago, and now when anyone asks the people of the city about how it all happened, they simply call it a customary choice. It means that their regulations pushed them towards making a melon their king, but now they are more than happy with their king being a melon because of the people live in peace and enjoy freedom. They are flourishing with no interference by their king. So, in this poem, you have learned that this poem is a satirical poem written by Vikram Seth about a city full of fools. In this poem, everybody, including the king, the ministers, the wise, the common men, are fools. The poet uses various puns to indirectly reveal their foolishness and lack of wisdom. In this poem, the king, whom the poet satirically calls just and placid, orders to construct an arch over the main street to impress the passers-by. The order was executed and an arch was made. However, the king passed through it. His crown fell as the arch was small for him to pass comfortably. In this poem, the poet serves the message that the rule of monarchy is effective or not. Through this poem, the poet satirizes on people in power. He has amusingly presented the idea that it does not matter to people who king or ruler or head of the state is, with the understanding that he's let them live in peace, liberty, and leniently. This whole poem is about the kingdom of fools. In the poem, the poet explains how petty matter leads to the death of the king, and how fool the people of that kingdom are. The king is described as placid and just, and however, ironically, he becomes furious a small matter and orders the hanging of the culprits. Even the wise men are fools. They choose Melon because of their lack of wisdom. So the whole poem is just an enjoyment, and it doesn't seem to carry a very great message to the people. Just one message is conveyed in this poem, is that the ruler of a city or a king must be intelligent and human enough to understand his people's needs and emotions. Otherwise his subjects will not obey him. Even after having Melon as their king, the people of Melon City were happy because their king did not disturb their peace and happiness, which is what a proper king should do instead of issuing foolish orders to maintain the city's law. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe my channel.